Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Autodesk Virtual Academy brought to you by KETIV Technologies. I'm Nigel Mbayak, Application Engineer here at KETIV and your host for today and just about all days. Joined with me, as you can read on the screen here, I've got one of my colleagues and office buddy, Eric Paul. How's it going, Eric?
Good morning, everybody. It's going good.
Awesome. And so this week, Eric's going to be talking about something that came out in Vault Professional quite some time ago, which is automatic PDF creation. PDFs being, that standard file format when sending files downstream. We all obviously know you don't have to deal with things like DWG viewers or even CAD tools to be able to open files. If you just want to send something to somebody and you need them to open it, be able to kind of look at it, a PDF is generally a good file type to send to them, right? You can open it in browsers even now, all of the Adobe Reader products, so on and so forth. It's kind of become that industry standard per se for some of these viewables. And it is no different for Autodesk files. Traditionally, people have, just manually exported their files, whether it be AutoCAD, whether it be Inventor, etc., to PDFs so people downstream could view them, see them, read them, etc. But now we've kind of streamlined that process by the use of Vault Professional to automatically export, or I guess not export, but create those PDFs upon release of a file. And we're going to go over that here in a little bit. So definitely stay tuned for the next, 30 so minutes. So definitely welcome everybody and let's get started.
Sure. So last time I was on, I did a series on life cycles in Vault. And this was actually one of the things I briefly touched on as I was going through saying that you could do this. Well, today I'm actually going to show the whole process, show you exactly how to create these PDFs as you're just moving through Lifecycle. Now, if you haven't caught up on life cycles, go ahead and take a look at that previous video from a few weeks back. It really just covers what is a life cycle in Vault, how do you set it up. That'll get you a good base here for what we're about to do. So let me just get into it here, and I'm going to start again with a lifecycle flowchart. So on here, you can kind of see we're moving left to right. This is a fairly standard flowchart here. We're starting in work in progress. We move files to review where they're either rejected or accepted, and they move either back to work in progress or up to release. And then if you're in release, sometimes you need a little quick change, little clerical things, maybe a typo, something like that to get redone. And what we're really going to be talking about here today is just this part just before release. So we move ahead here. And when we're talking about life cycles, really it's two main parts. We have the state and the transition. And so these boxes are our states. In this case, I've got review and release, and this arrow to it is a transition. And this transition is where we're going to be actually making the PDF, and that's where we'll be doing the settings, all that stuff. So let me go ahead and move over to Vault, and I'll show you guys how to do this here.
Yep, and I know this question is going to come up. This is a Vault Professional thing. So for those of you who are using Vault Basic, this does not apply now because there's no life cycles in Vault Basic inherently.
Yes.
So this doesn't work. But it is a Vault Pro functionality as well as a 2018 and newer functionality.
That's right.
So just keep that in mind.
Yep, and we're mainly looking at IDW files, DWG files. Those are the file types that will be converted to PDF.
And file-based lifecycle. So we'll go over all of those necessary things to go through here. I know that question comes up a lot before we get started. Actually going through the demo. I know that people are going to ask about item-based lifecycles. It's possible. We've done it for some of our customers. It's just a little bit different than what Eric is doing here. This is what's built in Vault out of the box. No additional functionality or purchases needed for what Eric's about to do right now.
Yep. All right, so let me start off by going to the life cycle here in my Vault. Go to Vault settings.
Yep, and to do this, you need certain permissions in Vault. Right now,
yeah,
Eric's
you need to be an administrator.
Yeah, he's logged in as admin, as you can see there in the bottom corner.
Yep. And fun fact, if you're ever looking to see, oh yeah, who did I sign in as? You can look down at the bottom right, see who you're signed in as, to what vault, and the location of that vault. All right, so let me get back to this here. I'm going to move over to behaviors, and we're going to go to life cycles right at the top. All right, so once we're in here, you can see I've got quite a few going on. Now we're going to go to our Autodesk Virtual Academy lifecycle, and we're going to edit this.
Yep. And why is it important to have life cycles? I'm just gonna, spend 30 seconds going over this. Eric did a previous AVI on life cycles, how to kind of set them up, what they are, exactly what each state does. It just helps you manage your files, right? To kind of give you a mental note, or I guess actually a actual written note of where this product is in terms of its design cycle, right? Whether or not it's being currently worked on, whether or not it's out for approval to say, the engineering manager, or maybe you're an analyst, so on and so forth. Whether it's released, right? It's released to production. This is being built. I'm not going to change this file, so on and so forth. And these are just some clerical things that help you kind of maintain sanity, right, within your environment. You don't necessarily want to have every file open to edit, especially those that are actually being built on the shop floor at this very moment, right? Because you don't want to edit those. If you do, then they're going to build 500,000 of the correct one and 500,000 of this wrong one.
Or maybe it's under review and you try to make a quick change. The reviewer is like, hey, I approved the other one, not this one.
Exactly. Or maybe, if you have 2 or 3 reviewers, right? One reviewer will see one thing and the other 2 will see 2 other things. And so things like the vault help you maintain that sanity, kind of lock things up when people don't need to touch them. So just a quick 30 seconds there on life cycles.
Yep. So we are now looking at all of our life cycle here. You can see I've got 4 states, and I kind of cheated. I just have a work in progress and released. I didn't bother with the review state because we're just showing this functionality real quick here. And what we're going to want to look at is the transitions. And here you can see I've got it set up. The first one, we've got work in progress to released. You can see all the other directions that could be possible. If you need to set up that, again, take a look at that other video. All options are always available to see here, and then you set permissions to let them actually happen or not. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a look at the work in progress to released state transition. Go ahead and hit edit. And on the Actions tab here, this second option, you can see right now it says Synchronize Properties using Job Server. We're going to want to hit the down arrow. And what we're going to want is this last option, which is Synchronize Properties and Update the View and PDF using Job Server. Hey. Go ahead and select it. Make sure to check it. I know sometimes this can happen that you select it, but you forget to do the checkbox, and then you're like, hey, what's going on? So definitely remember that.
Yep. And this is where, if those of you who haven't edited your life cycles before, this is where you would do things like Eric said, it looks at the visualization file here too. You can set it to do that. You can bump primary revisions, which is up there at the top. If you need to customize your life cycles, what happens during those particular transitions, do linked files, children, et cetera, this is where you would do it. Within these transitions, you can look at things like the criteria, security, based on like who can actually make those transitions and what actual actions happen during said transitions. So
yep. So there's just one small piece of it, and we have got that set there. Yeah. All these other tabs I go over in the other video, they're also very important. Let me go ahead and click OK. So now I've got this work in progress to release transition having an action which converts drawings to PDFs. Go ahead and click OK. And I'll close this, and I'll get to my handy dandy practice folder, and we're going to go look at the greatest drawing of all time. It's a triangle. It's amazing. Now, what
does it have a name, Eric?
It's drawing 1.
Okay.
The very first.
The first ever AutoCAD drawing?
First ever. Now, what you're going to want to do is you'll notice that the drawing that I have selected, drawing number 1, you can see it's at the release date currently. And there's this other drawing down here, which that has no information. And that's because it's not actually part of a life cycle yet. A very important part of this is that you have to make sure that the file you're working on is actually part of the life cycle that we just added that transition action to. So what you can do to do it pretty quick is you just go up to change state, and you can select a new lifecycle state. And in this case, I want the Autodesk Virtual Academy.
We're going to define that lifecycle for this file, and you can set all that up, you know, at the beginning of building this too. So
yep. All right. So that's how you do that part. Now let me go back, and I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to move it back to work in progress, and that'll action will do nothing. Remember, because we didn't set up anything for that.
Yeah, it might bump the rev if you have it set up that way. A lot of people do. So.
And now we're going to move it from work in progress to released, and that's where we're going to get our action. So let me go ahead and move this from work in progress to released.
Yep, and that should be the trigger.
Yep. Now, let's take a look at our job queue. If you remember, the last thing the action said is that it was going to do this via the job server. So we're going to look at the job queue, and you can see the ones I was practicing on yesterday. And here's the current one, drawing 1. So this is waiting to be processed. Now, we're going to go ahead and open up the job server now. There it is, job processor.
Yep, and you generally don't want this on the same machine as the Vault.
Yes, so when you get a lot of files transitioned, both the Vault server and the job processor are going to be working hard, and you really just don't want it on the same server. You can have it on a dinky little machine in the back corner somewhere. That's fine.
Yeah, it just needs to be able to.
You just really want to offload it.
Yeah, you want to offload it off of the Vault server, and you want it to be on, like, not some super dinky machine. You want a machine that can, like, run Inventor. Maybe not, like, model 10,000 parts in Inventor.
Sure.
But it needs to be able to open Inventor.
Yeah.
In theory, because that's actually what's happening.
Yes. And so actually a quick note on that. If you're using Vault 2018, just the vanilla version, the 0, it does need a Inventor license to convert this. However, if you're on 2018.2 or 2019, you can actually set this up so that it uses what's called an Inventor server, and you do not need a license for that. So that's really nice and a good reason to update to 2018.2.
Yep. And if you saw there, I know we were talking during that whole portion, is a bunch of stuff was happening on that job processor screen where it was synchronizing the properties. It was doing everything that Eric had checked that box for, right? Synchronizing the properties, doing things like creating the visualization file or updating that visualization file, and generating the PDF. I know we missed those, but
yep,
they happened. Believe me.
So I'm going to go ahead and go back to here. Let's refresh the job queue. And
it looks like Eric's got an error.
Of course. Well, let's see if it worked anyway. Let's see here. And nope. All right.
Yeah, so we'll just take a look at this real quick, and I'll answer a couple of questions. The PDFs are stored wherever you want them. Default, the PDFs are stored locally on the same folder as the original file was. With the extension, it'll be like drawing a.dwg.pdf is what it will look like if that's the case. Second of all, you can move those to whatever folder you want using some of the Vault options. There's an option to put the PDF files in some folder location where you want them to go. So let's just make sure that Eric squares this away. While he's doing that, I'll answer the other questions. Is the PDF generated from item-based or file-based lifecycles? And so that's a great question. So right now, the functionality works as the PDF gets generated from only file-based lifecycle control. If you're using item-based lifecycle control, there are ways to do that. We've done it for a lot of customers already. You don't use the functionality that is native to Inventor. You use the way that this was done before 2018 came out. This was possible before 2018 came out. And the way it's done for file-based lifecycles is pretty much how we do it for item-based lifecycles. So if you are using item-based lifecycles, it is possible. You just need to configure it that way.
Yeah, let me go ahead and restart this job processor, and let's try this again.
Cool. So Eric's going to go over that. A couple more questions here. Yeah. Can you change the PDF name to match the file? For example, part 1 IDW creates part 1 PDF. Certainly, and you can do that. Eric will go over some of the functionality and the edits that you can do in regards to changing the PDF names, things like prefixes, suffixes, etc. You can go ahead and edit all of those if you want to get those to match.
Yep.
By default, it'll say part1.idw.pdf, which is something you don't necessarily want if you don't want like a double file extension, for example. Because I know that sometimes some Windows programs will read the first dot file extension as the file type, and that's not good. So.
Right. So that's actually the thing I'll cover next here. Let's see if that one went through correctly. No, of course not.
All right.
Okay. Well, I'll just run through everything anyway. Apparently, I screwed something up by the time I left home and started this up this morning. So let's just keep going through. All right. So the next part I will go ahead and show you is all the different ways you can customize how this PDF comes out. And the first way is by changing the naming scheme. And that's the question that we just got. So this is actually one of the things that the Vault help file does very well, is it gives all the different options here of how you can change the naming scheme.
Yeah, if you actually want to generate, if you actually want to like do anything in Vault, and you need more information on how to do it, the help documentation is like numero uno place I look.
Yeah, it's actually really good for this.
Yeah, and then followed by the Knowledge Network. So both Autodesk resources, they're available to everybody. To get to the Vault help docs, I'm sure that many of you have accidentally clicked the button. There's a question mark in the Vault client, and if you click that, it'll go here.
Yeah. So one of the things it can do is, like the question asked, it can remove this IDW or DWG from the end of the file.
Yep, and that's very common.
And so people kind of like it both ways. Either they want it to say flower.idw.pdf, or they just want flower.pdf. So maybe they want to differentiate. Okay, we have an IDW version, we have the DWG version. I want to know. Or maybe they just want that plain part. And we can also add prefixes or suffixes. So we can either add just standard text that you want to add, or it can actually be a variable. And this gets pretty interesting because it can be any of the Vault properties. So if I go back to my Vault, everything here on the right, these are all properties we can add. So maybe you want to add the revision number. Maybe you want to add the project number, or maybe you have a user-defined property that you want to add to that. You can also add that. So it's pretty cool. So what I'll go ahead and do here is show you how we can edit that. So like it says here, you're going to want to go to the install directory, which is almost always going to be in program files. So I'll just go ahead and bring this up here. You're going to want to go to C, Program Files, Autodesk, Inventor 2018.
Vault 2018.
Vault 2018, Explorer, and we're going to search for a file called Job Processor Config. Okay, now the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make a copy of this file. Control C, Control V, we're going to paste it. Yes, I'm an admin. And what I like doing is I like adding to the end a .backup suffix. so that the extension actually changes and so that it doesn't try to pick it up. And so now we've got a nice little backup here. Whatever changes we make to this, if we ever screw something up, I don't know who would ever do that. But
Yeah, I haven't seen Eric ever screw up the configuration file.
What we can do is we can just go directly back to that clean version, and we're off to the races. You can see I already did this down here. So what you'll want to do is you're going to want to open this up in either Notepad or Notepad++. That's my favorite. And I've actually got it up over here. And you're going to see this huge file with lots of gibberish.
Yeah, so what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to read all of this and edit it all. Just kidding.
So we got a nice little explanation here. We need to look for this add key equals section in the file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to do a find and find what add key. Let's find the next section. Okay, so now we can see there's this big section where it says add key equals, and these are just a bunch of settings they've got set up. And so what I like to do is I'll go to the very bottom. Let's see here, still going, still going. Okay, here's the last key that they put in. And what I want to do here is I want to remove the DWG part from the file name. And so looking at the directions here, they say, okay, add key equals, blah, 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 value. And in this case, they have IDW, and I want DWG. So I just copy this whole thing over. I pasted it in here, and I changed that IDW part to DWG. And then you go ahead and save that. And the next time you run it, it'll look like this. No double extension off of that anymore. And as you look down through here, you can kind of see the result. And if you look in the same area, you can kind of see what they're doing here. You can see they added prefix here, or in this case, suffix. So they added it to the end. And then they started giving some examples. Well, okay, you can do both. You can use vault properties, et cetera, et cetera. You can even use dates. You can use current date, which can be helpful for, okay, this was, forget when it was released. This was actually published as a PDF on such and such a date. Yes, it does mention here, make sure you don't do this in something like Word. Sometimes the editors can pick up some of the special text and decide to format it on its own.
Yeah, so always do this in Notepad. Same thing with batch file scripts. Like treat this as a batch file script, essentially. Open it in Notepad or Notepad++, because you don't want it to auto-convert some of this stuff to, I guess, like carrots and stuff, which is probably what it'll do.
Yes. Yep, that's exactly what's the issue. Okay, so that's for naming. And again, you can find this help file, and it's called Publish PDF from 2D CAD Files. That's the section I'm in if you're looking for it right now. And I'm going to go ahead and show you the next part of the configuration. So there are, depending on if you're using DWGs or IDWs, and again, this is a little bit tricky. It says 2D AutoCAD files. What it means is DWG. So you might create an Inventor DWG. It means this. And 2D Inventor, that means IDW. So let me go ahead and go into Vault, and I'll show you where these are. We're going to go to Tools, Administration, Vault Settings, and it's just on this first page here, Options.
Yep, and this is the same place where you choose where the design PDFs get placed.
Yes. So, for instance, one of the first options here is, do I either want to upload this PDF to the source file location, meaning it'll come in just below this drawing one DWG, Or do I have a whole separate folder that I want to put it to? You can uncheck this, click on the 3 dots, and then you can navigate to a folder you've already got.
Yep. Just anywhere.
Or you can add a new folder. So in my case, I've been setting it to test. Okay, and next time I run this, it'll throw the PDFs directly to the test folder.
Yep.
And again, just a reminder, 2D AutoCAD means DWG, not necessarily
Built-in
AutoCAD.
AutoCAD.
Yes. Yeah. And let's see here. Let me just show you, if you're looking at these options in Inventor, they can be a little bit mysterious. Include layouts. What layouts? Initialize layouts. What? The help file actually explains a bit better. And it's like include layouts. Oh, enables publishing PDF file to contain model space view only. Now that makes sense. So this help file just kind of gives a better description for each of those selections there.
Yep.
Okay, so we mentioned earlier some of the restrictions for the built-in tool. I'm just going to go back and kind of go over all of those. So we go back into here, and here we go. So the restrictions are that it has to be file-based, so not item-based. It can only go to a released state. So let me show you what I mean by that. In Vault, when we're looking at a lifecycle, so I'll go to behaviors, lifecycle, and I'll go to my AVA lifecycle. Each of these states has the ability to be a released state, regardless what it's called. So this could be called, I don't know, Nigel's Funhouse. And what's really important is under control here, we need to make sure that this is checked off as this is a released state. If this isn't checked, you can't convert to PDF when we're going to this state. So do make sure you've got that going. And this does kind of bring up a really weird thing where technically you can set multiple of these to be a release state. We really don't recommend it unless you've got some advanced workflow and you know what you're doing with that. But yeah.
Don't do it if you don't know what you're doing. is pretty much what Eric said.
Don't do it just for fun.
Exactly. But yeah, any state can go to any other state in theory, right? You can just set the transitions to see if it's possible or not. And any state, whenever you transition into a state that is quote unquote released, you can have this action occur. Right. So say, for example, you just had another state in there called like I like purple and had it go into some sort of release state. It'll do the same thing if you want it to. So. Yep.
All right. Back to the list. OK, so it's the IDW and DWG file types. It is 2D drawings only. And it's Vault Pro 2018 or newer. And again, if you're on 2018.2 or 2019, you no longer need a Inventor license.
Yep, because essentially what's happening is the job processor is using Inventor to open this thing and generate the PDF.
Yep. Now, what this actually is kind of somewhere in between a built-in tool and a custom job. So if I go back to Vault here, let me go ahead and open up this transition. It was set under this action, right? So it's synchronize properties, update view, and PDF using job server. Well, there's this whole other world in here where you can send stuff to the job processor, custom job types. And you can create your own custom jobs. And what these are pieces of code that live on the job processor. And you can, when a transition is happening, call that piece of code to make something happen. And that really opens up a lot of cool things. And I'm going to bring up a list here of some of the stuff that you can get into with that. What it opens up for us is something like PDF generation for item-based life cycles. because the built-in one really doesn't work with items. But now that
it's not really doesn't work, it's just a straight doesn't work.
It just doesn't work at all. You're right. But once we push the item to the job processor, we can kind of pull it apart. We can find the drawings within the item, convert it to PDF, put it back in the item, and then put everything back into Vault. And with that type of concept, you can do things like updating Vault properties for title block information.
So this is a big request that happens all the time, is people want to do custom Vault properties for title block information that might not necessarily be like standard properties that get carried in.
So for instance, the approver, it went to the released state from review. Who did that? When did they do that? And what revision's it on? But which lifecycle state is it on currently? Maybe it's on work in progress style. How do you know? Well, now you can update the title block to show that. Another cool one is we can send out email notifications when we're doing these transitions. So for instance, if your review team has files they need to review, we can send an email notification to them saying, hey, these files just moved into this state and you need to do something with them.
Yeah, and that's one of Eric's favorite things. If you have any questions about how possible that is, ask Eric. He spent a lot of time on this.
Oh, that's a lot of fun. I like it. And the opposite direction where, okay, the file was approved or rejected, and it looked like the engineers know, we can do that as well. Or another one we've been doing is we can send a copy of files, usually PDFs or bill of materials or other types of drawings to a network drive.
Yeah, any information. If you need to send it somewhere, it's possible.
Yeah, send network drive, send it to your ERP. You can create a custom CSV file that will update your ERP with, okay, your Vault did this and that.
Yeah, with like purchasing information and all that fun stuff.
So there's really a lot of different ways that you can customize your, I want to say, anywhere from the beginning to end of your experience. I know we're kind of talking about the end here when we're talking about generating PDFs. Often this happens on released. Well, with the built-in tool, it has to. And there's lots of different ways that you can be customizing, what you're up to, so you can make your workflow way easier.
So again, thank you all for being here, being part of our AVA community. It is the community that keeps us going every week. We'll see you all next week, same time, same place, 10 o'clock on Thursday for those on the West Coast and whatever time it is for everyone else. So thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great weekend.
Bye.